Thank you. We're going to resume business this afternoon with consideration of Business Motion 20668 in the name of Graham Day on behalf of the Bureau, setting out a revision to today's business. Could I call on the Minister to move the motion?
Presiding.
Thank you very much. No member has indicated they wish to speak. The question therefore is that motion 20668 be agreed. Are we all agreed? We are agreed. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to turn now to portfolio questions. Our first question is from Edward Mountain.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government when it last met the Highland Council and NHS Highlands to discuss social isolation and loneliness.
Minister Christina McKelvey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I have not specifically met with Highlands and Islands Council or NHS Highland to discuss social isolation and loneliness. However, local authorities are a vital partner, and I discussed the crucial contribution of local authorities with Councillor Kelly Parry of COSLA, who is the co-chair, along with myself, of the National Implementation Group of our Social Isolation and Loneliness Strategy. It is absolutely imperative to the success of our joint working with wider members of the National Implementation Group, including Youth Link Scotland, the Campaign to End Loneliness, Chest, Heart and Stroke Scotland, Voluntary Health Scotland, Generations Working Together, Sports Scotland, Befriending Networks, Age Scotland, the Carnegie Trust and Architecture and Design Scotland. So lots of joint work going on.
Edward Mountain.
And I thank that Minister for that answer and the long list of people that she is working with. Age Scotland's Share What You Love campaign aims to cut loneliness and isolation figures in half by 2025 by encouraging everyone to spend a small amount of time with an older person who lives alone. Can the Minister confirm if the Scottish Government, Highland Council and NHS Highland are working together to support this campaign? And if so, what specific actions are they taking?
Minister.
I can thank Edward Mountain for that follow-up question. He's absolutely right about the What You Love campaign and taking that time out to spend time with people. And you might have noticed that PG Tips this week, in coordination with Age UK, have a great social media campaign about sitting down and having a cup of tea and catching up with people. He's absolutely right. We take very seriously these campaigns, we support these campaigns, and we work very closely with Age Scotland and others on these campaigns as well. So you can be reassured in that vein that we are very committed to this. Sometimes just having a cup of tea, phoning up somebody that you've not seen for a while, spending time with people that maybe you have fallen out with can really aid in tackling social isolation and loneliness. But that's even more important when you're in a rural area and it's maybe difficult to meet up with people. So these campaigns are absolutely key to the work we're doing. And I'm keen to hear more of what Edward Mountain involves in the Highlands and Islands, and maybe we can share some of that joint working going forward.
Thank you, Minister. And call Sandra White.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Minister, as Presiding Officer, as convener of the cross-party group on older people, age and ageing, the issue of loneliness and isolation is a recurring theme, both in the Highlands and Islands and across the rest of the country. For many older people who suffer from loneliness and isolation, a TV can be a lifeline. Will the Scottish Government continue to make the case for the UK Government to U-turn on the decision to end free TV licences for Scottish pensioners and fund this vital service for our older people?
Minister.
Sandra White will not be surprised to know that I am deeply disappointed with the BBC's decision, which is ultimately the result of the UK Government shifting what should be a welfare policy onto the BBC and shirking its responsibility to support older people. Also, the BBC's plan to introduce a means-tested waiver base on pension credit will fail to help many vulnerable people, yet will still cost around £250 million in 21-22 to administer. I hope that those 1.3 million households across the UK who are eligible but don't currently claim pension credit now do so. There has never been promotion of this important benefit, so many will continue to be unaware that they are entitled to it. But it is clear the UK Government should recognise its responsibility and fund free TV licences for all over 75s.
Thank you. Question 2, Bill Kidd.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how many children will be eligible for the Scottish Child Payment when it goes live.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley Ann Somerville.
An estimated 170,000 children aged under 6 will be eligible when applications for the Scottish Child Payment are opened in the autumn of this year, with first payments by the end of 2020. Of all children living in poverty, almost 60% are in a household where the youngest child is aged under 6. Given that the early years in a child's life are key for their long-term outcomes, we looked hard at what we could do to support those families more quickly. That's why we're launching the benefit 2 years ahead of our original timetable. Once fully rolled out, the payment will benefit up to 410,000 children, lifting 30,000 children out of relative poverty at a cost of £180 million a year. This is a significant investment in our children and families.
Bill Kidd.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that excellent answer. The Scottish Child Payment has rightly been described as a game changer that will make a massive difference to families across Scotland. And you have said that you want to encourage people to get their applications in early due to the volume expected. How will you be ensuring that eligible families get this message?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, we are very much committed to reducing poverty and ensuring payment reaches those who need it most, and there will be extensive communication campaigns to support this, and particularly through Social Security Scotland, we will continue to actively promote the payment to eligible families, just as indeed I was promoting the continued take-up of the school-age payment from the Best Start grant at Inzivar and Holy Name Primary Schools just this morning. As with all our benefits, we will work with stakeholders and partners to embed its promotion into local services, such as midwifery, nurseries and school placement services. And this builds on the success of the Best Start grant, with the pregnancy and baby payment paid out more in 2 months than the DWP benefit it replaced paid out in an entire year.
David Stewart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Earlier today, the Social Security Committee heard from SCOSS the recommendation that the Government consider a double lock to upgrade the child payment. It goes up by either the higher of CPI or medium income growth. Could the Cabinet Secretary confirm she will accept this recommendation?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I have listened very carefully and responded to previous reports from the Scottish Commission on Social Security, and I will absolutely do so on this one as well in detail. I'm grateful for the support that they are giving the Scottish Government for the work they're doing, particularly in the tight timescales that we're asking them to do it. We've already made a number of changes to the regulations as a result of SCOS's considerations for the Scottish Child Payment. For example, we introduced a 12-week linking period when people fall out of the qualifying benefit or child responsibility benefit entitlement. So that's to make sure that they stay on our system in case they're eligible again. So we are listening. I continue to listen to what the Commission said, and I will respond to each one of their recommendations in due course.
Thank you. Question 3, Liam Kerr.
To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking to protect vulnerable older people.
Minister Christina McKell.
Nobody should be subject to any form of harm or abuse, and we take strong action to protect the most vulnerable in our society, including our older people. For example, we have made the ill-treatment or willful neglect of adults receiving health or social care a criminal offence, and recently consulted on hate crime legislation, including the introduction of a statutory sentence in aggravation of age-related hostility.
Liam Kerr.
Thank the Minister for that response and recognise some of the positive steps being taken. Presiding Officer, statistics paint a worrying picture. Figures from Action on Elder Abuse found that almost 1 in 10 elderly Scots had fallen victim to crimes, including physical abuse, theft and intimidation, and only a fraction of those offences lead to prosecution. Additionally, 94% of people think older people are specifically targeted for abuse due to their perceived physical frailty or mental vulnerability. So does the Minister agree that no elderly person should ever be subject to any form of abuse, and that protecting these vulnerable communities should be a real priority?
Minister.
Absolutely. Liam Kerr would have heard in my initial answer about the work that we're doing around about the hate crime bill, and I know that he takes a particular interest in that. And I have heard and listened to some of the issues that Action on Elder Abuse have raised with the Government, and we are listening. We have obviously no plans right now to create a specific offence of elder abuse, but we are looking at how we can do that through the hate crime bill. But we are always got this under review and always talking to the people who are involved in this area, and Action on Elder Abuse are a key partner in the work that we are doing on this area.
And Keith Brown.
The pensioner poverty has been an issue that's been ignored by the UK Government for far too long, from the unfair treatment for women born in the 1950s to cutting pension credit for mixed-age couples, taking TV licences off some pensioners. Does the Minister agree that vulnerable older people would be better protected if the powers were taken away from Westminster and given to the Scottish Government instead?
Minister.
Presiding, I might get too used to that. No. Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government has written to the UK Government numerous times on the issue of women affected by state pension increases, urging them to find a solution to support these women. As we know, this has been constantly refused, and I appeal to them again today to re-look at the WASPy women's situation and address the issue now. The Scottish Government estimates that the UK Government's decision to remove entitlement to pension credit for mixed-age couples could lead to an annual loss of as much as £7,000 per household, and by 2023-24 could affect as many as 5,700 Scottish households. This is an unacceptable doubling down of policies causing harm to older people, and we have called on them to reverse this decision too. We will continue to invest over £100 million to mitigate the worst impacts of the UK Government's welfare reforms, but it is clear that the best way to protect those most vulnerable older people within our Scottish society would be a full transfer of powers over social security to this Scottish Parliament.
Question number 4, Alexander Burnett.
Thank the Presiding Officer, and can I ask the Scottish Government what action it takes to ensure that older and disabled people can easily access local services?
Minister Christina McKelvey.
The Equality Act 2010 provides a legal framework to protect the rights of individuals and advance equality of opportunity. The Scottish Government is working to promote equality across Scotland through a Fairer Scotland for disabled people and a Fairer Scotland for older people, with work being taken forward locally. Equality law recognises that bringing about equality may mean local services make changes, such as the removal of physical barriers or providing extra support. This is the duty to make reasonable adjustments. Reasonable adjustments seek to ensure that older or disabled people have, as far as reasonable, equal access, the same as everyone else.
Alexander Burnett. Can I thank for that answer. Now, obviously, much of the information around local services is on the internet, which some people may have difficulty accessing. So will the Scottish Government join me in recognising the work of AbilityNet, a charity which provides technology support for people of all ages living with any disability or impairment? And is there anything that the Scottish Government would be able to do to support AbilityNet's aim in helping to build a more accessible digital world?
Minister.
I absolutely agree with the member on that point. I've not come across AbilityNet yet, so if you've got any information for me, please send it on. But I can absolutely reassure him that both in our Fairer Scotland for Disabled People strategy and the older people strategy as well, that digital connections and the ability to access digital information is very, very high on our agenda. Also within that is the use of digital technology to be assistive in the means that older people or disabled people need to just get about their everyday lives to maintain their independence. So absolutely committed to this. It's in both our strategies, and if you've got any other ideas on how we can improve on that, I'm happy to hear them.
Question number 5, Dean Lockhart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what progress it is making in taking forward the proposals in its paper, A Fairer Scotland for Older People.
Minister.
The Scottish Government will publish the first progress report on A Fairer Scotland for Older People, a framework for action, in April 2020. The first annual report is being co-produced with our key stakeholders in the Older People Strategic Action Forum, who will next meet on the 25th of February. I am looking forward to discussing the progress we are making with our over 50 cross-cutting actions contained in the framework, as well as considering how else we can develop our work to ensure people are healthy, happy and secure in older age anywhere in Scotland. And can I just make the point about the Older People's Strategic Action Forum? They always ask me to emphasise the word action, because that's what they're looking for.
Dean Lockhart.
I thank the Minister for that helpful response. Recent figures show that more than half of workers over the retirement age in Scotland want to continue to work. This is to be welcomed, as older people have a wealth of experience and skills to contribute to the economy. However, in order to do this, older people will need support to reskill or retrain. So can I ask the Minister, what specific steps is she taking to help older people reskill and retain, especially given the thousands of part-time college places which have been cut and the lack of apprenticeship opportunities available for older people?
Minister.
I agree with him wholeheartedly that we obviously older people do want to work longer. Some of those WASPy women who have to work longer have got a different perspective on all of this. But in the meantime, that work that we are doing around about, well, it's Jamie Hepburn's portfolio that's doing some of this work around about A Fairer Scotland in the workplace, and the work that we're doing there to maintain healthy environments and the ability to train, retrain and take up training opportunities in that. One such piece of work that I'm involved in with Jamie Hepburn is about older women in the workplace and how we support women going through the menopause to maintain their place in the workplace. But I'm sure Jamie Hepburn would be happy to give the member an update on the work that he's doing specifically. Yes.
Question number 6, Jeremy Balfour.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking to promote intergenerational work to support older people.
Minister.
The Scottish Government values intergenerational work because it breaks down barriers between generations, tackles negative attitudes to ageing and strengthens our local communities. We have funded our national experts in intergenerational good practice, Generations Working Together, to the tune of £95,000 in the financial year 2019 to 2020 to build more inclusive communities whilst ensuring integrated intergenerational approaches to create positive change. I've had many visits and events over the past year involved in intergenerational working, but I have to say the ones that are the most joyful, because they're all joyful, but there's an extra bit of magic, are the ones that involve the intergenerational work that's going on now.
Jeremy Balfour.
Can I thank the Minister for her answer, and I certainly welcome the Scottish Government's commitment outlined in the framework for action to encourage activity that brings generations together. Following the success of intergenerational living projects in Denmark and the Netherlands, is the Minister aware of calls by organisations, including Age Scotland, to pilot intergenerational living? For example, older people renting out a room to a student or having the young people living in or alongside care homes? And can she confirm if there are any plans to pilot any such schemes here in Scotland?
Minister.
The intergenerational work that we're doing right now, generations working together, working within communities, time and time again, this issue about that great programme that's happening in Denmark about younger people living and working with older people comes up time and again. There's a number of local authorities that are looking at that right now. I don't have up-to-date information on where they are with that, but hopefully in the next meeting that I have with the group, I will raise it specifically and get some additional information for the member to let them know whether what's happening. I know there's some developmental work going on right now, but I'm not at liberty to say that on behalf of other people yet, but I will come back to the member if that's okay.
And question number 7, Finlay Carson.
To ask the Scottish Government how it tackles social isolation among older people in rural communities.
Minister.
Mixed up my folder. People can feel isolated and lonely at any age or stage of their lives, and where they live can play a very important part in that. That's why we consulted communities across Scotland, from Galashiels to Lerwick, to hear their views about how we support people to build connections, how we can enable that through transport, housing, public spaces and digital technology. These conversations directly informed the development of our strategy, A Connected Scotland, and will underpin the upcoming delivery plan, which is on its way.
Finlay Carson.
Thank the Minister for that response. The retired farming social group in Dumfries and Galloway have been tackling loneliness and isolation for the last 2 years, with around 50 members attending meetings on a monthly basis. For a variety of reasons, people with rural and agricultural backgrounds often become isolated. However, the future of the group is at risk because of the lack of funding to help pay for travel costs. How can the Scottish Government assist with funding to support these groups expand and allow it to become sustainable for the future?
Minister. Can I thank Finlay Carson for raising that particular issue? It has been raised with me before via Emma Harper and the work that she's doing there, and the group and the farmers group have invited me down for a visit, and I hope to do that very, very soon. I get lots of visits and I'm hoping to get around them all. But the member's absolutely right about some of the pressures that the group have raised. We have asked they've asked us about financial support, and we have suggested that they look at some of the opportunities that are there to do that, how they can get involved in community planning and funding, and we have passed on further details on how they can do that. If there's any more that the member thinks that we can do, I'm happy to hear that too.
Emma Harper.
Actually, the answer that the Minister has just given to Finlay Carson means that I think my question is going to be responded to, so I won't take up the Chamber's time anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Harper. There's a lesson there from every member. Thank you very much, Ms Harper. Question 8, Alistair Allen.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what impact UK Government welfare reform has on low-income families in Scotland.
Cabinet Secretary Shirley-Ann Somerville.
On the 23rd of January, the Scottish Government published its report on the impact of the UK Government's welfare reforms on disabled people. It showed that the existing benefit system makes it too difficult for disabled people to access the support that they need and are entitled to. 39,000 people lost their disability benefits entitlement since personal independent payments were introduced, and since that time there have been 30,000 cases across Scotland where claimants of disability benefits needed to undergo a stressful appeals process in order to receive the rightful entitlement after the DWP initially made the wrong decision.
Alistair Allen.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. Recent figures show that the DWP has refunded ESA to 112,000 people who owed it. but sadly 5,000 of those people had died before they received the money that was rightfully theirs. No system will be free of human error, but the rising number of DWP mistakes point to a systematic problem. If the Tories continue to refuse to fix the problems embedded in the system, does the Cabinet Secretary agree that social security powers of this kind should be transferred to Holyrood so that we can build a system which puts dignity and fairness at its heart?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, it is indeed shameful that 5,000 people have sadly died before the DWP's reassessment process paid them what they were entitled to, a process that was only necessary due to the DWP's own errors. The devolution of disability assistance means that we can introduce a decision-making process which is robust but fair, and where we can do everything that we can to get the decisions right first time. But many benefits claimed by disabled people, including ESA, which Alistair Allen mentioned, will remain reserved to Westminster. The Scottish Government cannot redress all of the unfairness that exists in the current UK benefit system without the further devolution of powers over social security. That's why it is imperative that all powers relating to social security are devolved to the Scottish Parliament in order to protect the most vulnerable people in our society.
Jeremy Balfour.
Thank you, President. The Cabinet Secretary is aware that PIP has now been devolved to the Scottish Parliament. In her answer originally to Mr Allen, she indicated that she felt the criteria for mobility was being falsely interpreted by DWP and having a bad effect on individuals here in Scotland, which she confirmed to the Chamber today that the regulations for PIP brought forward by her government will be radically different than those that are from the DWP.
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I think the very important part is it's not just about the regulations, important though those are, it's about how people are encouraged to apply for what they're eligible. It's about how that application process is made as simple as possible. It's about the decision-making process that allows the information to be gathered so that the information is collected speedily and done correctly to ensure that the decision is made right at the first time. And I am absolutely confident that the Social Security Scotland and how we are delivering social security up here in Scotland will be radically different to what is done by the DWP.
Thank you very much. That concludes portfolio questions. We're going to move on shortly to the next item of business.